Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining here at Unapologetically Progressive. Today we're brought to you by Dubby Energy. Dubby Energy has 150 milligrams of caffeine without all that nasty sugar and additives. It's a great, thing to replace your morning coffee in the morning if you don't have time to, for a coffee. Be great if you're a gamer out there playing, gaming all night, whatnot like that. But it's a great afternoon pick me up. It gives you hours of energy without the crash and jitters that come with a lot of energy drinks. W Energy, be better. Now, today we're going to talk about what's been going on at the Supreme Court. Now, at the Supreme Court, today was their last day. They were finishing off their docket of rulings, and some of them didn't go very well. We're going to talk about a few of them and a quick and dirty rundown of them. And we'll try to break down some of them more next week. But first off, there's this Obamacare panel, as people refer to it as, but it's a panel for the ACA that makes sure that people are able to get preventative medicine done, like screenings for cancer, STIs, things like that, right? And there was a group of conservative people claiming that this wasn't right? That these people weren't elected, so they shouldn't be able to have any control over anything. The court referred to the people on this panel as inferior officials, therefore they did not have to be appointed by the president. Therefore, if that's a win for the ACA and Obamacare and people that are getting their care, because these people ensure that you get your cancer screenings and your STI screenings and your other preventative care that you can have, like to prevent diabetes or prevent other illnesses through vaccines and such like that. To make sure these things are covered through your ACA plans, at least they're supposed to be. Now, some things, different states have different rules, so some things aren't as perfect as they should be. But that's how that ruling went. That ruling was okay. That's one of the decent ones. Um, then, as well, there was another ruling. They ruled on whether or not teachers or parents can opt their students out of certain books being read. That stems from a case from Maryland. We've discussed it on this channel before, and some people disagreed with me on my ideas of it, but the ruling itself stood with the parents, saying that parents can indeed opt their children out of stories being read to the class or having to read stories that had LGBTQ characters in it. Now, as terrible as I think it is to try to do this kind of stuff, right, and to opt your kid out of just reading about people existing, right? I'm not talking about anything dirty here. I'm just talking about the existence of a gay character in a book. I don't think you should be opting your kid out of that, but I think parents should have the option, because the other alternative is for them to ban these books altogether, right? Like, I don't know what books they were reading in at this Maryland school district, right? I don't remember what books they were reading, but I do know a number of school districts have books that they've been reading for years now. One involving two gay penguins. Now, these two penguins actually existed in real life, and they were actually gay, and they actually, hatched an egg together, right? They were given an egg by people to raise and to hatch because they had been trying to, nest other birds, you know, eggs. And so I don't think this is a problem. I think it shows you that parents are so close-minded sometimes that they don't want their children to learn how the rest of the world actually works. But hey, at the end of the day, it's parental rights. That's one thing I support here is parental rights. Now, I wish that parental rights would extend to transgender children trying to get health care. I really wish it would, because I believe parents should be able to have the right to deal with how their children are dealt with when it comes to how their medical treatment. Right? I don't believe the government should become between a parent and their child. I don't think the government should be able to dictate how a parent raises their child. Right? I just don't believe that. I don't believe that should be a job of the government. Right? Now, unfortunately, it's not how people see things. right? I don't see this as a slippery slope to, not allowing kids to know about LGBT existing people, right? I don't think that's part of it. I don't think that's what's going to happen here. I think opting and parents being able to opt children out prevents these books from having to be banned from the shelves because of one person crying about it, right? Now, growing up, this is how it worked. Parents were able to opt their children out of viewing certain content and reading certain books. That was that was the thing, right? Now, this doesn't even extend to like science and things like that. Doesn't extend to history and stuff like that. It extends to books, specifically books having to do with the LGBTQ community. And unfortunately, not every parent out there is accepting of people being gay, trans, bi, lesbian, whatever. And as a member of the LGBTQ community, I completely understand the fears people have and the concerns people have with this. I understand that this could make it difficult for a child who is struggling. But the thing is, that child's not going to just struggle because they don't get to read a book. What we have to do is change hearts and minds and get parents to understand that their child is not defective just because they're part of the LGBTQ community. That there's nothing wrong with somebody being gay or a lesbian or trans or bi. Like we've got to explain, show by actions and stuff. We can't just keep telling people that we're just normal everyday people and then demand that they support us. That's not how we're going to win hearts and minds. Right? We got to show that we're better than they think we are. We have to show that we just that we just exist. And a lot of people don't understand that. And I understand that that could be detrimental to their LGBTQ child. But it's not going to be them not being able to read a book or see a movie in a classroom with a gay character in it. That's going to be that detrimental to them. What's going to be detrimental to them is the parent that wants to do it in the first place. If the parent wants to keep them from seeing something, then they shouldn't see it. And I don't think the government should stop a parent from being able to have that option. As ridiculous as I think it is that people would opt their children out of reading a book about two gay penguins, I think parents should have the right to do so. And sticking with the theme of parental responsibility and parental rights, um, the Supreme Court also ruled on the Texas basically porn ban in a way. It requires pornographic websites to do age verification, which can actually be cost prohibitive for many of them, making many of them shut down, or many of them just risk getting sued. Right? Um, this is a situation that's already been ruled by our courts in the past to be First Amendment protected content. Um, Granted, it's supposed to be for adults, but I think it's a parental responsibility to make sure to police what your kids are watching. There again, I do not believe it is the government's job to ensure that your kid doesn't get on a website he's not supposed to be on. I do believe that's a parental responsibility. But today, the Supreme Court ruled that that law is constitutional and can be upheld, which means every state in the union now that has one of those bans in place or one of those age verification laws in place are allowed to keep it, much like here in Oklahoma. And so I really believe this is kind of stepping on people's rights a little bit, honestly, because people shouldn't have to sign up for stuff and save their credit card information or driver's license information on a website on the internet. I don't think that is smart. I don't believe that is safe practice for people, and I just don't. I don't think it's a great idea. But that's what the Supreme Court ruled today: is that age verification for pornographic websites is constitutional, and that is now the law of the land, at least in the states that have passed it. Now, in the states that haven't passed things like that, it's not a thing. But like I said, I believe that is a parental issue, right? I believe it's parental responsibility to police what your child is watching on the internet. There are plenty of things out there, plenty of things you can programs you can download for your computers, things you can put on their cell phones to track their web browser, the browsing history, things like that that you can get a ding on anytime it's something that's inappropriate. We know this because JD Vance has talked about it at length. About I think it was JD Vance that talked about him and his and somebody, I think his kid or something, keeping each other honest or whatever. Um, but I think that was who it was anyway. But there's plenty of things on there that can control what your kid sees on the internet. There's plenty of things you can put in place. You can set screen time limits. You can also go in and block. With certain programs, you can go in and block. Um, what they can see. You can even put it on their cell phone. You can get a phone that has limits to what you can access. There's plenty of ways to go about this if you're willing to do it. But I believe parents are too, not going to take that time, and I still believe it's their responsibility. Now, on to the big one that I'm really just disappointed in how it ruled. And that was the ruling over birthright citizenship. Now, today the Supreme Court ruled that Trump's, you know, Trump can still use his birthright citizenship executive order right now, even though it may never even go into effect. Um, right now, there are 17 states where Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship cannot take effect while makes its way through the courts. Because what they did was say that if you're not directly affected by it, or if you're not part of a class action, affected by an executive order or something, then your rights don't matter. That your rights just don't matter. That's just how it is. Especially your rights to birthright citizenship. Now, this is aiming at coming from a lawsuit involving them trying to be able to deport people whose parents were here illegally when they were born, and they were born here on U.S. soil. Um, Playing off that narrative of the anchor baby, right? Where your parents that come here undocumented, they have children, and their children are American citizens, and they just get to stay. Now, I think that's how America's supposed to be. That's how we've been for a very long time. Um, I believe it was the 14th Amendment, either the 13th or 14th Amendment, I believe, that set birthright citizenship as the law of the land. And now here's the thing. The Supreme Court didn't rule on the merits of Trump's executive order banning or birthright citizenship. That they sent that to the lower courts to be worked out at the lower federal court level. But right now, because of what they did, only 17 states do people have protection against that executive order. And all the other states that do not have are not part of the class action lawsuit or whatnot. Those people have no rights. Like here in Oklahoma, if you live here in Oklahoma or Texas, and your parents were um, illegal immigrants, and you were born while they were illegal here in the United States, and you're not protected, then you could very well be risking deportation by being in the country. Um, and I don't think that's right. I think at the end of the day, I think when this makes it back to the Supreme Court next year, probably, I think the Supreme Court is going to knock down this ruling. I don't believe the executive order is constitutional. I believe it goes against the Constitution directly. And I think the Supreme Court will rule in that direction. But the broader implications has to do with any other executive order that he brings, right? That from now on, if you're not directly affected by it, or your state is not part of class action, then there cannot be a national injunction against what's going on. At least not easily. Now it's still going to be effect. You can still bring the cases, and certain cases, if they meet certain criteria, they will still be able to bring a nationwide injunction. Now we'll see how this plays out, but Trump sees this as a major win. He believes he's going to be able to push through anything he wants now, without any kind of court problems at all. And unfortunately, that's going to hurt people with gender affirming care, because he's trying to get that ban on all forms of Medicaid or ACA plans or anything. And that's going to be very detrimental to people. And I hope more states join, the class action on the birthright citizenship. And I hope they do the same thing for transgender care, because this is going to hurt a lot of people. It's just really going to hurt a lot of people because, like I said, I wanted HRT. I wanted to try to be able to get HRT, and now I'm not going to be able to, because I live in the state of Oklahoma, which will never join any lawsuit against the Trump administration over gender affirming care. And that's going to hurt a lot of people. I know a lot of people that watch this channel are part of the community, and I'm hoping that we don't have to deal with this. I'm hoping that in the long run, that the Supreme Court will realize the error of their ways. But I I know I'm wishing on, empty dreams there. They're not going to do anything to change this. At least not as long as the conservatives have control of that court. And just know, I mean, we're going to be stuck with a conservative court for a while, but we've got a few justices that cannot be there all that much longer. Um, everybody runs out of time. So, but let's hope those conservative justices hold on until Trump is out of office, or at least until Democrats take control of the Senate again. Now, here's the thing. The question I have about this whole allowing Trump to be able to do what he wants, basically, without, aside from having a national, like, you know, a national case against him, a class action or something like that against him. Is this going to allow him to just do away with elections like he said he was going to do? Because what this is going to allow, I mean, it's going to allow him to just ignore any kind of court ruling that doesn't have a class action to it, right? So if I live in Oklahoma and he decides trans people can't vote, does that mean I don't get to vote? Or is that going to be a states' rights issue? But then again, if it has to do with a federal election, that's a federal issue. That's what concerns me. Can he just say that women can't vote in the states, and then in the states where the states don't question it, that women just can't vote? What if Donald Trump decides that Democrats just can't vote? It makes an executive order saying that Democrats can't vote. Does that mean only the states? I mean, that's going to mean that only the states in the union that fight it are states where Democrats can vote? We're headed down a really bad path here in the United States, and this is the destruction of our nation. We cannot allow one man to wield all the power. This is the United States of America. We do not have a damn king. But that's what they're trying to do. That's what the Supreme Court is trying to do. Anyways, thanks for watching Unapologetic Progressive. Hit the link down in the comments if you want to save 10% on Dubby. It's a great drink. I've been enjoying it this last week or so. It's pretty good stuff. And it's definitely going to give you a pick-me-up in the afternoon or early morning. Or if you're just, trying, down to do some streaming and stuff like that for video games. I know it's going to come in really handy as the college football game releases next week. I think that's going to be really fun for a lot of people. So if you're part of that gaming market, you love college football, you're ready for it to come out on the 7th. of July. Get your tub. It might be there in time for the show if you order now. Um, anyhow, thanks for watching. I'll see you down the road.